Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Robert Cole.
Well, I want to welcome everybody. It's my second time in Boise, and I really like it here. And I really like coming on these first Thursdays because downtown has great art shows, free wine, and a lot of good times. So we're going to talk today about a couple of different things. We're going to talk about going beyond this idea of resilience and talking about, well, what's next? Because we all hear a lot about resilience, but where we're at, resilience isn't quite good enough. Because resilience just gets you back to where you need to be. It doesn't get you ready for the next disaster that's going to happen in your life. And so, in my experience, there's no single incident traumas that happen. It's all a continuous process. And if you don't learn from the previous one how to get better handling the next one, then the next one's going to get you. And it's always what's coming up behind from you and what's going to happen next. So, I'm going to do something a little bit different that I've never done before, so you guys are going to have to bear with me a little bit. I'm going to try something, okay? So, to me, crisis events are all about teachable moments, and they're very overwhelming when they hit you. And when I think about the different crises in my life, I realize that I was very overwhelmed by them, but they all taught me something about handling the next one. So I thought I'd start out with a little story. When I was a young man, I was not the most well-behaved person. I was raised in what we call a family that was one step ahead of the law. I went to 20 different schools by the time I dropped out of high school because, there was all these warrants out. Police come to the door and they knock on the door and like, hey, if you don't get out of town, I'm going to have to serve this warrant. So, we had to move. So I got kind of tired of that. And so I said, you know what, this is a nice family, and I enjoy my family, but I can't live here anymore. I got to go. So I was sitting in Bakersfield, and I hitchhiked down to the Greyhound station at 17 years old, and took the bus up to this little town where I was living. And I called my social worker and said, hey, I'm abandoned, I'm here, I need some foster care, can you hook me up? And she's like, Bob, you can't just call me and say, you need foster care and I hook you up. I'm like, well, okay, well, what do you guys pay? How does it work? Well, we pay this much, does that work? Well, you can just give me that money. I'm sure I can take care of myself for that. I said, well, Bob, I know you, and I'm sure you can take care of yourself for that, but I don't know if that would be a very good choice for our social work agency. I might be criticized by my superiors for that. I was like, well, you pay pretty good for this. I have some friends. They could probably take me in for this. And she said, Bob, all your friends are on my caseload too. None of them are past the home visit. You can't do that. By the way, where are you exactly? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you where I am because you're a responsible human being. You're probably going to send the police down. And I've sat in the back of those cars enough. I don't need to be taken off somewhere. I can figure this out. I said, okay, figure it out. Call me back. You got my number. I'm right here. So, in a situation like that, which I think a lot of children face, where do you think the first place I went to go find a foster parent? Went down to local elementary school. Went down to my sister's second grade teacher and said, hey, you know what? They pay good money for foster care, and although I have my problems, I go to school every day, and I'm a pretty good person, so I know they don't pay you very much. You're a teacher, so here's what they pay. It's a good deal. So, let me call my husband, see what he said. So a week later, well, not even a week later, a day later, because I had someplace to stay, I'm like, hey, we got to accelerate this process. I don't know where I'm staying tonight, and I'd really like to stay somewhere. So it was really interesting because within a very short period of time, everything got fixed, and I was sleeping in their upstairs empty bedroom, and it was really nice, Although, maybe I wasn't as good a child as they thought I was going to be when I first entered the home, and they had all these things going on, like you have to come home from school, you have to know where you're at, you can't be hitchhiking all over the place, can't get high anymore, can't ride on the back of a motorcycle with your friends and be whereabouts unknown for days at a time. So, but they said a very interesting thing that I had not heard before, which is the reason we're doing this is because we care about you and we're worried about you. And so the problem is when you hear those words, you know, I had just gone down to the Greyhound station, taken the Greyhound up, found this foster care place, and I hadn't heard a word from my parents about what's going on. Not a word. Because they weren't worried about me, and they hadn't probably been worried about me for a long time. So that idea of we're worried about you, we care about you, is something that this teacher was able to deliver just like that, something that I hadn't heard before ever. It's like, wow, that's really interesting that exists, because I saw it on TV a couple of times, I'll leave it to Beaver, but I didn't really believe that everybody really lived that way.